Ladies and gentlemen, the family's been seated. There's some extra chairs. Please don't be bashful if you'd like to have a seat. And if I could also remind everyone to please turn off your cell phones for the service.
Steve, do you want to sit over there?
Adonai, Roi lo echsar, Bino tzedashayar b'tzeli, Alemei menuchot yanahaleni, Nafshi yeshovei, Yanacheni b'maglei tzedek, L'man Shemo, Gam kielech begetz al mavet, Lo yirara, Ki ata imadi, Shivetecha u'mishantecha, Ema yenachamnu. Taharoch lefanai shulchan neged sorerai, Bishanetav Hashem el Roshi, Kosi revaya, Ach tov v'chesed, Yirdefuni, Kol yemei chayai, V'shavti beveit Adonai, V'yorech yami. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, restores my soul. Guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me. Thou prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
Say, Baruchim Aba'im B'Shem Adonai. Blessed are all of you. You've come here as we are paying our last respects for Bobbi, Neal, and Sandy, and Kathy, and Rem. Our heart goes out to you. I know online, I'm Rick Rhines, the rabbi at Temple Sinai, and our beloved Scott, your brother, and his Diane. They can't make it because of illness and their precautions. But our heart goes out to Scott and Diane and the family as well. As we are in that last week of Tammuz before Av, there's a switch in the gears that we have in our sense of well-being. This time, we're already starting to think of the loss that we experience as a people. And so the times come to make us pause and we think. And I was saying, you look over and you see that's what Russell is. I know, right? And we think of the people that we've loved, that are so dear to us and important to us, that are no longer here. Look back here with Stan Farber, and says his dear beloved first cousin, now with Bobbi, is gone, and his Lori is right here paying respects as well, as are all of you. So as we're in this transition, we think of the times that make us pause and think of what this is all about. There's a passage in the 3rd chapter of Kohelet, which says, for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to grieve, a time to dance, a time to remove stones, a time to gather those stones together, a time to embrace, time to refrain from embracing, time to seek, time to lose, time to keep, time to let go, as she did 1 hour, 1 hour after being brought to hospice. She knew. Time to let go. In but a moment, Rabbi Chakapsi will have the tearing, and the passage continues. There's a time for Kriya, there's a time for tearing, but it's time for sowing, the healing that comes from loving family and friends, the time to keep silence, the time to speak. There's a parallel to that passage that I read from Kohelet, and I'd like to conclude with this meditation, which I hope you'll find meaningful. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning. Death is our destination. Life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting.
In the book of Psalms, King David implores God, "V'al tikracheni kodem zmani." Do not take me from this world before my time. The legend has it that David wanted to know when he would die, but God would not tell him. God shared only that David would pass away on a Shabbat. From that moment on, David spent every Shabbat in prayer and Torah study to keep the angel of death at bay. One fateful Shabbat, David was distracted, but for a moment, from his Torah study by a sudden noise outside the window. The angel of death had its opening, and on that Shabbat, at the age of 70, King David died. We are gathered here this afternoon in honor of Barbara, Bobbi, Farber, Neal, Rachel, Bab, Chaim, V'Chaya, a dutiful daughter, a sister, a loving wife, and a truly devoted and selfless mother and grandmother. She lived longer than King David, 70 years. She was 82. But even though her later years were marked by a decline in both body and in mind, she was so filled with love and inner strength, and her face still wore that ever-present smile. You cannot help but feel that Bobbi Neal was taken before her time. Certainly, her family did not expect her to pass away just yet. Kathy and her 2 boys had just arrived from Israel and went to the hospital, and then on Saturday, inexplicably, needed to go to Denver Hospice, where Bobbi had been taken. And as we've already heard from Rabbi Rhymes, she died barely an hour after being admitted. Like King David, Bobbi passed away on Shabbat. There were so many questions, and unfortunately, too few answers. But the question in front of us today is, how shall we remember her? One can read an obituary and, of course, learn the facts and figures of her life, starting with her birth in East Denver, Her 1954 confirmation at BMH, her stint as an administrative assistant at the AJC here in Denver, her work at the Navajo Freight Line Company, where she met her husband, Ira Neal, of blessed memory, and her role in helping to found Temple Sinai. And it is fitting that I officiate together with its current rabbi, Rick Grimes. You can read about her many moves in and out of Colorado, from Colorado to Vegas and then back to Colorado, and her moves within Denver and Aurora itself, and so much more. But that would still be an incomplete picture. One would still not grasp the inner Bobbi. The inner Bobbi was in many ways larger than life. Bobbi would always insist that she was 4'11". And we will agree to give her that today, even though if we were to be truly precise, she was actually a little shorter than that. But that was only on the outside. On the inside, Bobbi was tall for her size and strong too. Her life had more than its fair share of challenges and heartbreak. She lost her husband after relatively few years of marriage. She worked a variety of jobs, doing whatever was necessary to raise her children, Scott and Kathy, in the best way she could. She must have done an amazing job because, as Kathy put it, we never went without. Bobbi's home was always open to her children's friends. It became the place to be, and she was the mother that everyone loved to be around. Clearly, Bobbi did a very fine job. She was blessed with an indomitable spirit, a sense of responsibility and purpose, as well as a playful feistiness, and as mentioned earlier, an ever-present smile. And it was these things that enabled her to meet whatever life would throw at her head on and unflinchingly. Some would say she survived. For those who knew her best and those who could see would say that she thrived. To be sure, her life revolved around family. Through the ups and downs, the twists and turns of life, she loved her children unequivocally and fiercely. Both Kathy and Ren and Scott and Diane have their own wonderful memories of special moments and good times with their mother. Kathy, living in Israel, never allowed a day to go by without at least one extended phone conversation with her mother. Her 4 grandchildren meant the world to her. Each of them had a unique connection to Bobbi. And in a few moments, we're going to hear from one of them who is here with us today, Ariel Bashari, who is here alongside his brother, Yonatan. And we know that Ashley and Zach, who are listening online, we know that each of them also have very special moments and special relationships, either around Rockies games or the books of Stephen King. The best way we can remember her, perhaps, on this really beautiful day before it gets too hot. In Jewish tradition, a tree is often a metaphor for the human being. And our tradition has much to say about trees, but I want to quote from a contemporary sage, one of the most popular actors and writers and producers in Hollywood, one that has a real head on his shoulders and a very sincere and wise heart. I'm talking about Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry wrote the following: I have this tree analogy when I think of the people in my life. Whether it's friends or acquaintances or family, employees, coworkers, they're all placed inside what I call my tree test. And it goes like this. There are leaf people. Some people come into your life and they are like leaves on a tree. They're only there for a season. You can't depend on them or count on them because, well, they're only there really to give you shade. Like leaves, these people are there to take what they need, and as soon as it gets cold or a wind blows in your life, they're gone. You can't be angry at them. That's just who they are. Then there are branch people. There are people who come into your life and they're like branches on a tree. They are stronger than leaves, but you have to be careful with them anyway. They stick around through most seasons, but if you go through a storm or two in your life, it's possible that you could lose them. Most times they will break when the going gets a little too tough. They're stronger than leaves, but although that's the case, you have to test them out before you run out there and put all your weight on them. In most cases, they can't handle too much weight. But again, can't be mad with them. It's just who they are. Then you have root people. You can find someone in your life who are like the roots of a tree. Then you have found something truly special. Like the roots of a tree, these people are hard to find because they're not trying to be seen. Their only job is to hold you up and to help you live a strong and healthy life. If you thrive, they're happy. They stay low key and don't let the world know that they're there. And if you go through an awful storm, they will hold you up. That's their job, to hold you up, come what may, to nourish you, to feed you, and to water you. Just as a tree has many limbs and many leaves, but few roots, so are human beings. Look at your own life. How many leaves, branches, and roots do you have? What are you in other people's lives? Thank God for the roots and try to be a root to many. I think it's pretty clear that from everything that I've come to know about Bobbi Neal, she was a root. She did not abandon anyone when things went bad, especially not her closest and dearest members of her family. Her family was lucky to have someone in their lives like Bobbi Neal, because she didn't always try to be seen, and it may have been easy to overlook her sometimes, but she was always there doing what roots are supposed to do. In our Talmud, one of the most famous stories is of a traveler in the desert walking for days. He's weary and tired when suddenly he comes upon a tree. He eats from its fruit, rests in the shade, and drinks from the small brook coming next to the tree. When rising the next day, the traveler looks to the tree and says, Ilan, Ilan, bameh avarechecha. I want to say thank you to you. What can I do to thank you? How can I bless you? Talk about fruit. You have fruit. Talk about branches that give shade. You have that. Water that quenches thirst. You have all of this. In a tender moment, the traveler looks to the tree and says, I have only one blessing for you. May everything that comes from you be as beautiful as you are. I think all of us here can attest to the fact that Bobbi's family has tried their best to learn the life lessons of their mother, and as we'll hear in a moment, their grandmother. May her memory, the memory of Bobbi Neal, always be a blessing. Her body and her soul will be laid to rest. Part of it will always remain with all who knew her. May we always be inspired to do our best, to be a credit to the way she lived her life and the values that she exemplified, and the love she had, and the smile that she had for everyone, almost every day of her life. And let us all say, Amen. Reaching your attention to Ariel.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. All right. I'm Mario Bashari, and I'm going to speak a little bit on behalf of myself and my brother Yonatan. Dear Barbara Lee, Bobbi, Bobbikins. Hi, little grandma. We hope you are enjoying yourself in the heavens above. I will never forget how many times I would tell you that you are little. It was hilarious. Until, of course, I actually got taller than you. And as we all know, that didn't take very long. As we reflected on the time that we had together, we were able to come up with memories that we can recall ever since we were born. I can't think of anyone that I have memories with. I can't think of anyone that I have memories of when I was a young child. It all starts with the song you made for me when I was a baby, when I would never stop crying. Ariel Bashari, Ariel Bashari, Ariel Bashari, Grandma loves you. You are Grandma's special boy. You are Grandma's pride and joy. Ariel Bashari, Grandma loves you. And we both also remember how often you would sing, You Are My Sunshine and A Bushel and a Peck. We have very clear memories of you from when we were toddlers. Memories of you pushing us on the swing and singing songs like Take Me Out to the Ball Game and Off We Go into the Wild Blue Yonder. I remember us running through the grass and staring at the clouds. You represent a very simple time in my life, a time when everything was innocent and free. I remember going to sleep at your house, absolutely confident that I could survive a night without my parents. Nearly every time I wouldn't last. I'd start out fine, enjoying the evening with you. But come nighttime, I would cry my heart out, wanting to go back to my mommy and daddy. I remember that we would go to your house every year to eat the amazing Thanksgiving dinner that you made and watch the football game. When we were young, you would always take us to Chuck E. Cheese, playing all of the arcade games and having fun. I also remember getting lost there. I was so scared, all I wanted to do was find you. As I got older, our connection only got stronger. We started to understand each other much more. I was able to be sarcastic around you and be myself. I learned that we shared a love of video games of all things. Whenever you would come to our house and see me playing on the computer, you would sneak up on me and tickle me. Whenever we made plans to go and do something fun, the first person we thought about inviting was you. We did everything together. We went to the zoo, the museum, and the movies. We would build snowmen during winter break and plant flowers during summer break. Our childhood is incomplete without you. In the last year of your life, you were diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and yet you fought it like a champ. You were always doing puzzles and games to get your brain working. Even though you became forgetful, you remained sharp. I was extremely scared that at some point you would forget who I was, and yet you never did. We know that you're looking from above, and we know that this was your time. Thank you for fighting in order to give your grandsons one last chance to see you. You raised an amazing family, and more importantly, you helped everyone that you could and brightened everyone's soul by doing it. We want you to know that we will always love you and we will never forget you. The moments we had together will always be cherished. The light you brought into our lives will be passed on to everyone we touch. Until we meet again on the other side, this is goodbye. But we know that you will always be with us, wherever we are, brightening our lives in every way. See you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile. Not too soon, you big baboon.
Thank you very much. Blessed are you. ישוב העפר על הארץ כשהיה, והרוח תשוב אל האלוהים אשר נתנה. The dust returns unto the earth as it was, but the spirit returns unto God who gave it. It's considered an act of altruistic kindness to place earth into the final resting place of a loved one, knowing that this person cannot do the same thing for any of us. It's considered the highest act of chesed, chesed shel emet. And anyone who wishes to come forward and participate in this mitzvah may do so. There are shovels on either side. We ask you not to hand the shovel to the other person. Just put it back into the earth. Let each person take the shovel, him or herself. So we're gonna come back to
Sometimes they do, then when I was.
Ladies and gentlemen, we ask everyone to gather around. You can come into the shade again. Now we're going to ask Sandy and Kathy to say the words of the very special mourner's Kaddish. Kaddish that's only said at the grave site. We're going to say it together with me. I'm just looking for the words. No. You sure? Kaddish is going to be said, and we all have to answer Amen and Yehi Shmei Rabbah. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah. Dehu Atid Lachadata, Ula'achaya Metaya, Ula'asaka Yaton Lechaye Olma, Ulanivnei Karta Dirushlaim, Ulashach Lala, Echle Begave. Uleme'akar pulchana luchra'a min ara. Uli'atava pulchana dishmaya la'atre. V'yimloch kudsha b'richu b'malchute. V'kare. V'chayechon u'v'yomechon. U'v'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala. Uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam u'lomeo maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal Shmei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol berachata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata Ta'amiran bi'olma bi'maru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'maru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'maru amen. Just going to go take one step backwards and offer what's called Siduk Hadin, which is a series of statements that recognizes God's control over us while we're alive, God's control over our soul as well on its journey beyond the land of the physical. Hatzor tamim paloki chod rachav mishpat el emunah ve'ein aval tzadik v'yashar hu. Hatzor tamim b'chol po'al mayomer la'matifa. Hashalit b'matal v'ma'al memit v'mechayem arit sho'ol v'ya'al. Hatzor tamim b'chol ma'aseh miyomer la'ilav ma ta'aseh. Ha'omer v'yoseh chesed chinam lanu ta'aseh v'bizchut ha'ne'akad keseh hakshiva va'aseh. Tzadik b'chol derachav hatzur tamim. Erech ha'payim u'malei rachamim. Chamol na v'chusna alavot uvanim kidacha adon aslichot yarachamim. Adam im ben shana yichya o elef shanim yichya. Ma yitron lo kolo haya yihya. Baruch dayan ha'emet me'imit u'mechaya. Yadanu Adonai ki tzedek nishpatecha titzdak b'davrecha v'tizkeh b'shavtecha. V'ein laharher achar midat shavtecha. Tzadik ata Adonai v'yashar mishpatecha. Dayan emet shofet tzedek ve'emet. Baruch dayan ha'emet shakol mishpatav. Tzedek ve'emet. Nefesh kol chai b'yadecha. Tzedek mala yimincha b'yadecha. Achem apletat son yadecha. V'tomar lamalach heref yadecha. Gedol ha'etza v'rav ha'aliliyah. Asher einecha pikuchot hakol darchei b'nei adam. Latet li'ish kidracha v'chifri ma'alalav. Yagid ki ashar Adonai suri v'lo avlata bo. Adonai natan, the Lord gives. Adonai lakach, and then the Lord takes. Yehi shem Adonai mevarach, may the name of the Lord be blessed forever. Yurachum yechaber avon v'lo yashchit, v'hirbali yashiv apo v'lo ya'ir, kol chamato. We're going to conclude the service with the memorial prayer and just a word or two about Shiva and services. Today is Monday, so Shiva officially would go through Sunday morning. Shiva is going to be at Kathy and Rem's home, and you have the address, I believe, on the handout, as well as instructions as to where to park. There's a parking lot across the street. You may find space there. You may not. It's a busy street. From after the service here until 7 o'clock this evening will be visitation tonight, and then at 7 o'clock there will be a mincha and ma'ariv service, and your presence at that service, of course, would be welcome and appreciated. The same will hold true for Tuesday, Wednesday. There'll be visitation and Thursday, visitation from 4 to 7 with a service in the evening at 7 o'clock right after the visitation. And I don't have it in front of me. Friday morning, 11 to 2, but there are no services on Friday because we give everyone a chance to get ready for Shabbat. And Sunday morning, there's no service either. Is there visitation on Sunday? No visitation on Sunday. So Friday is the last opportunity for visitation. Your presence at that service would be, visitation and services would be certainly appreciated. El Malei Rachamim Shochene Bamromi Hametzei Menochanachona Tachat Kanfei Ashechina B'Malot Kedoshim Etiomi Kizahar Arakia Masiri Ishmat Isha Rachel Bat Chaim B'Chava She'alacha Le'olama Tigan Eden Tehe Menuchata Lachein Abal Rachamim Hastirehu B'Seita Kanafacha Le'olamin B'Yitzarar B'Tzar HaChaim Et Nishmata Adonai Unachalata V'Tanoach B'Shalom Al Mishkava V'Rama. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure. To the soul of Barbara, Bobbi, Farber, Neal, Rachel, the daughter of Chaim and Chava. Lord, who now rests in her eternal home, Master of mercy, we ask you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds she performed in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of our lives. The Lord is certainly her portion. May she ever rest in peace. And let us all say, we'll ask those who are not mourning to form a double line facing. We'll ask Kathy and Sandy, accompanied by their family members, to make their way through the line. And we're going to say a couple of words to them. I ask you all to repeat these words after me as they make their way. Double line. Amakom, Yinachem, Etzem, V'tov, Sha'ar, Avele, Zion, Yerushalayim. May God comfort you among all who mourn, Zion and for Jerusalem. We all say, another fun day.
Concrete right there. Yeah, yes.
My Susie and I, we always like that.
everyone. We're signing off now. Be well.